What's up, guys, and welcome to the Grand Empress Shek'zeer Heroic Raid Guide. In this fight, you need endurance for this fight. This is a really long fight. First off, I want to put big grats and shout out to Vox on Kel'Thuzad. Great kill for this video. Absolutely one of those fights that it's such an endurance fight. You really need to stay focused for literally the entire 15-minute berserk timer. It really will come down to that. In this fight, you're going to have a couple different things that you need to worry about. The first thing in phase 1 is we're going to try to break it down phase by phase, okay? From phase 1, from normal mode to heroic mode, there's not a whole lot of difference. The biggest difference is going to be the dissonance fields and what they do, okay? You will still get Cry of Terror, but the trick is you want those dissonance fields to die at separate times. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that you understand the difference between normal and heroic. On heroic, one of the dissonance field will spawn a corrupted terror. It will put a big guy in it, and then it will start spewing stuff all over the raid, and this hits like a truck. You absolutely need to get this down as quickly as possible. So what we did for this fight was, if you get Cry of Terror, as soon as you get into that one, you spam and spam and spam. We had bops, we had life cocoons going off on that player, so they could stay in there and spam as long as they could until it exploded. They do have to stay in there till it explodes. We also had a Demonology Warlock who would go through, and literally every time there was a corrupted, he would be in there spamming as well to drop that thing as fast as you can. The trick is with this fight is you need to get rid of those dissonance fields as soon as humanly possible. You cannot afford to have them stay up. Okay, there's just no way around it. You can't do it. What you do is you're going to get 2 dissonance fields, and then you're going to go into phase 2. Okay, and this repeats twice. So you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 1, phase 2, then phase 3 at 30%. So how you need to really do this with your DPS and with the enrage timer is you need to have the 2 dissonance fields in phase 1. You get through those, again, just rinse and repeat. The person with Cry of Terror goes into the corrupted, you get it down, and then you nuke the boss, and you're really just tunneling DPS into the boss while staying 5 yards apart. You will do this again until the timing's up, and once the timing's up, the boss will go away, and you move into phase 2. There's not really a whole lot else to say about phase 1 besides that. So as you can see here, you've got phase 2. All the ads come out. Now this phase is extremely tricky. How we handled it was we had everybody stack on one marker for the sticky resin. What this allowed us to do was tunnel DPS into ads, as well as make sure that we're getting the traps as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So if you got sticky resin on you, you were already in position, so it didn't matter. You just need to burn the ads, your heal, and do your job, and that was it. Once the trap formed, we moved over to red, and we formed the second trap. The trick for this phase is healing cooldowns. These ads will hit like a truck, and there's just no way around it. They just absolutely will destroy the tanks. So you can stun them, you can have rogue put poison on them to slow them, but you need to understand that the stuns are the biggest thing. Tanks can pretty much handle 2 ads. If they have 3 on them or 4 on them, they'll pretty much get 1 shot. So what you need to understand is that when there are 3 on them or 4 on them, you need to stun them, you need to have them taunting between each other, and you need to understand how that works as a healer. That's when you're going to be putting out just an absolute ton of single target heals on the tanks. You will still have raid damage going out in this phase. The only other thing that you'll notice is, again, like normal mode, you still have Fixate. What Fixate will do is it'll pick a random target, and it will also add an ability called Sonic Blade. Now what he does is at 20 yards, if you're within 20 yards, he throws a Sonic Blade. It will pretty much one-shot you. So what you need to do is make sure that if you get targeted and fixated, how we handled it was we ran away to the stairwell. Once you got to the stairwell, if the ad was going to get within a certain distance of you, obviously you pop a personal defensive cooldown, depending on the timer left on the fixate. Once the fixate timer's off, you just take the lock portal back, or if you have like 2 or 3 seconds, you can take the lock portal back without him hitting you, and it allows you to get back in the group, continue DPSing, and then once the fixate ends, he'll go back to the tank. The trick is in this phase is you need to get all the ads down before the boss comes out, or while the boss is out. You can really only have maybe 1 up, maybe 2, because they will break out the Reavers. The Reavers still need to be trapped, as they're pretty much unkillable without the trap. So you just kite them into the trap once the Reavers are down, and then you move on back into phase 1 again. But as you'll see here, The only real trick is, again, if you get fixated, you leave your pile. Other than that, once both the traps are formed, that's all you do. In between phases, you run back, you get in position because those dissonance fields will come back out, so you need to stay as close to the boss as you can while being 5 yards apart. He will put a poison debuff out that needs to be spread to the raid because you need to get that damage buff that it gives you to have the poison buff. So it's essential that you get that out on your DPS. So we actually had our third off tank just running around the raid spreading that. Worked out really well. Kept all our damage up, and again, the only time you really need to move is don't stand in dissonance fields if you don't have Cry of Terror. Make sure you're standing in the right dissonance field if you do have Cry of Terror, and then this phase is pretty much rinse and repeat. As you can see here, that's the Corrupted Shaw I was talking about, and then once he comes up, he'll go down, it still turns black, spits out AoE, and that's how you deal with it. Keep in mind you do, again, need to stay spread out your 5 yards so you don't get double hit by the ability that the boss does. Tanks are obviously swapping so they don't get mind controlled in due time, and that's, again, it's pretty much rinse and repeat on this part. Okay, so as we go through the fight, the only other real thing that you need to worry about is when you get to phase 3, okay? Phase 3 is a nightmare. You have quite a few different abilities coming out, but if you can get to phase 3, you can kill this boss. Pretty much how it works is there's still visions of demise which need to be dispelled, the fear thing, so if you have tremor totems, mass dispel, whatever you have, you need to get it down. The quickest, or the other problem that you run into is with so many people getting it, you need to stay 8 yards apart so that way when you're dispelled you don't do 150k damage extra to somebody else, as this ability will already pretty much put you at half health, if not lower. Healers need to understand that during this phase. There's a ton of damage coming out, so just cycle your cooldowns, keep your mana up as best you can, but you need to heal those people, as well as the tanks are getting hit like trucks in this phase as well. Also during this phase you'll have Heart of Fear. What he does is he puts an ability on somebody. It will then go towards, what we did was we had our off tank who was kiting the stuff sitting out to the right hand side of the boss. What you did is you just went over, stood behind him so that the Heart of Fear channeled into the boss. Think Exhale from Imperial Vizier. You want a tank in between you and the boss so that the Heart of Fear debuff goes on the tank and that he gets hit and you don't. As you'll see in the end of the video, I actually got picked twice in a row and had no cooldowns left up, so I went down to about 1.8%. But that's just luck of the draw. The trick is in phase 3 is it's just so much RNG that you need to get it down as quick as possible. You can use hero twice in this fight, so I recommend right off the bat, and I also recommend once you get into phase 3. If you have to use it a little bit before so you can make sure you're pushing into those dissonance fields so you're not getting a second pair, you may have to do that, because that's going to be key for you getting this fight down, but that's the biggest thing that you need to worry about. Also in phase 3, you're going to have that Cone of Terror, so you need to just run out of the purple stuff just like normal mode, but that's a normal mode mechanic. So if you can dispel and you can get the Heart of Fear person out of the raid in time, you can get this fight down, and then you'll get your cutting edge achievement. Thanks for watching. See you next week. you